Welcome to the Explainer. Look, we all know the FIFA World Cup isn't just the biggest football tournament on Earth. It is, without a doubt, one of the most lucrative sporting events in human history. Its global reach is just unmatched. But behind the scenes of the beautiful game, there was recently this massive, high-stakes battle over money, ownership, and tradition. Let's get right into exactly what happened.
Billions. You really cannot overstate the sheer scale of this event. Every 4 years, billions of fans tune in, and right alongside them, billions of dollars flow directly into the sport. We're talking massive broadcasting rights, global sponsorships, and incredibly lucrative commercial deals. It's a true financial juggernaut. But recently, FIFA faced a major controversy that threatened to completely rewire how this massive sum of money is handled, and more importantly, who ultimately controls it.
So here's our roadmap for today's Explainer. 1. The billion-dollar investment idea. 2. The backlash against private money. 3. Mounting pressure on FIFA. 4. FIFA's traditional growth strategy. And 5. The future of global football.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the billion-dollar investment idea.
To get how this whole thing started, we have to look at FIFA's leadership. Since taking the reins, President Gianni Infantino has focused heavily on expanding football's global business footprint. His primary goal was to find massive new revenue streams to aggressively grow the game worldwide. And that drive led to a really controversial proposal, bringing outside private investors directly into FIFA's major competitions. The core of the plan was completely unprecedented, actually selling off equity stakes in the crown jewel itself, the World Cup. As you can imagine, just the mere suggestion of that sent absolute shockwaves through the sporting world.
The proposed mechanics were pitched as a mutual win, right? On one hand, FIFA gets an immediate, huge influx of billions of dollars from private equity. Supporters of the plan argued this capital could supercharge football development in emerging markets and make the organization financially invincible. In exchange, those private investors would secure a highly lucrative, ongoing share of future commercial revenues tied to these tournaments for years to come. On paper, a simple trade of equity for capital. But, as we know, football isn't played on paper.
Which brings us to Section 2, the backlash against private money.
Because this proposal immediately sparked a really profound question. Should the World Cup, a tournament widely considered a shared global cultural tradition, be partly owned by private equity? It's a fascinating dilemma. Football has always walked a razor-thin tightrope between raw commerce and rich heritage. But for millions of fans and vocal critics, selling actual ownership stakes felt like a bridge way too far.
The backlash was absolutely swift, and it was driven by three very specific fears. First, there was this deep concern that ruthless commercial interests would just start overriding the integrity of the sport itself. Second, critics questioned whether these outside investors, who are, let's face it, motivated entirely by return on investment, would start demanding influence over tournament formats or schedules just to maximize profits. And finally, the ultimate fear, that selling off equity would fundamentally transform FIFA from a global sporting custodian into a pure financial asset management company.
Let's move to Section 3, mounting pressure on FIFA.
You have to remember, this proposal couldn't have come at a more sensitive time. FIFA has spent years aggressively trying to rehabilitate its public image after navigating a string of high-profile historical controversies regarding governance and transparency. Because of that lingering shadow, any move involving opaque private investment or giving up even partial control required extreme caution. The leadership simply could not afford another massive PR disaster.
In the pushback, it wasn't just a few angry voices on the internet. It was a united front. We're talking international football associations, top sporting officials, and the massive global fan base itself. All of these key groups demanded absolute reassurance that the future of the World Cup would remain securely in the hands of the football community, not private equity firms. The combined weight of this resistance was immense, and it ultimately forced FIFA's leadership to backtrack and abandon the controversial investment plan entirely.
So what happens next? Section 4, FIFA's traditional growth strategy.
With the private equity plan officially dead in the water, FIFA had to pivot back to its roots. They still desperately needed massive revenue growth, but they had to achieve it without selling off pieces of the sport. So, they doubled down on a traditional four-step playbook. Step 1, maximizing global broadcasting rights across new markets. Step 2, securing massive new corporate sponsorship deals. Step 3, heavily monetizing their digital platforms and gaming partnerships. And Step 4, just expanding the tournaments themselves, like increasing the number of teams in the World Cup to naturally generate more matches and more inventory to sell.
This strategy cleverly hits the ultimate goal, increasing financial power and revenue, but without giving a single outside investor any ownership of the sport's biggest events. The most important outcome of this traditional approach is pretty simple. The World Cup remains entirely 100% under FIFA's exclusive control.
All right, let's wrap things up with Section 5, the future of global football.
Even though this specific investment plan was abandoned, it totally reveals the ongoing tug-of-war at the very heart of modern sports. On one side, you've got football as a business. It's a massive global industry constantly searching for new capital to grow leagues, fund clubs, and build stadiums. But on the other side, you have football as emotion. The World Cup represents national pride, cultural history, and millions of dreams. To the fans, it's infinitely more than just a product to be bought and sold in shares.
Money is important for the future of football, but trust is even more valuable. FIFA's decision to drop the private equity plan proves that even the absolute biggest sporting organizations on the planet must ultimately listen to their fans. The World Cup's true power doesn't just come from the wealth it generates, it comes directly from the raw, global emotion it inspires. So, I want to leave you with this final thought. Knowing the billions of dollars at stake and the constant need to grow the game globally, should authorities ever allow private investors into football's biggest tournaments? Or must the World Cup remain completely controlled by football organizations to protect its tradition? It's a debate that is far from over. Let me know exactly where you stand in the comments below. And hey, if you enjoyed this explainer, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into global sports and business analysis. See you next time.